This man's name is Kashi. He is at the jewelry store choosing gifts for his wife named Nami. She is pregnant at home, but the cash in hand and the newly purchased necklace attracted the attention of two thugs behind him. In a deserted alley, Kashi is blocked by two thugs. Because I want to quickly return to my wife. Kashi took the initiative to hand over the money in his pocket, but the two thugs still didn't let go of the knife and forced Kashi to give him the necklace he just bought. This action surpassed Kashi's patience, so he used the cloth wrapped with the necklace to fight. Two thugs with knives repeatedly attacked Kashi but confronted them with a genuine martial artist. After a period of fighting, Kashi did not spend too much effort, also stole the knife and successfully controlled the two spicy thugs. Not wanting to make a big deal out of it, he threw the knife on the ground and went home. Go to Kashi's house to put on his wife's new necklace, then go to the grocery store to buy snacks. But when he returned home, he discovered his wife had been murdered. There was also an X-shaped wound on his neck. When the pain subsided a bit, Kashi chose to call the police. But after a series of professional measures, the police also only concluded that this was a common murder case and did not continue to investigate. Kashi knows that it's not so simple. Waits after organizing the funeral for his wife. He will personally go to find the killer. During the funeral, Kashi's longtime best friend Nakabara flew from Thailand to attend the funeral. Because I want Kashi to quickly forget the pain of losing his wife. Nakabara invited Kashi to come with him to Thailand. The first purpose is to ask Kashi to help manage the dojo, and the second is to help the male lead relax. But after listening, Kashi refused, because he still had to avenge his dead wife. Early the next morning, Kashi went to a dojo, because he thought over and over again that the two thugs that day were the #1 suspect in the murder of his wife. So based on the technique they used on the day of the fight, Kashi deduced that those two were definitely students of this dojo, so he rushed here to take revenge. The head of the dojo saw the male lead's spiteful eyes and knew that Kashi had come to cause trouble, so he chased and scolded him with no respect. But after a fierce fight, Kashi defeated all the students in the dojo. But still couldn't see the shadow of those two thugs, so he grabbed the leader, forcing him to ask him where the other two guys were. At midnight, two thugs are going home. As a result, Kashi suddenly rushed out from the darkness, facing the killer who killed his wife. This time, Kashi wasn't soft-hearted. He acted very ruthlessly. Any blow is a fatal blow. In the immediate future, the two opponents have died one after another. After revenge, Kashi is no longer attached to this sad land. So he went to Thailand to find Nakabara. Here, Nakabara wanted to show students Kashi's strength, so he took the time to organize a martial arts competition. The result did not know that. The male lead used his superhuman strength to defeat all the students here, but in Kashi's heart since then, he has not forgotten his wife. Recently, he almost accidentally injured a martial artist. So Kashi was in a sad mood. I went to the bar, but at this time a thug deliberately spilled a glass of wine in his hand, and did not stop teasing. This time, the male lead didn't hold back anymore. He hit his head on the table and added a fatal kick. But unexpectedly, the gangsters' accomplices in the bar were very crowded. They immediately rushed to attack the British Council, but Kashi was very calm, taking down one by one. Seeing that they couldn't use their hands, they immediately switched to using weapons. They used everything in the bar that could be used, and attacked Kashi. But even so, they were no match for him. After having them measure the floor, Kashi calmly drank another beer before leaving. The next day, he woke up and intended to go to the garden to pick fruit, but after sobering up, his head hurt like a hammer, extremely uncomfortable. A nearby martial artist saw this and took the initiative to say that he could help pick it up, and at the same time told Kashi to go home and rest. As a result, not long after, in the garden transferred to the trustee, the person who helped Kashi pick the fruit was killed by a mystic. Kashi ran like flying to the scene. The student had already stopped breathing. On his neck was left an X-shaped wound exactly like his wife Namiko's. It seems that the real killers are not two thugs. Soon the police showed up and took the person's body away. Before long, Kashi went to see Nakabara, telling him what was in her heart. And Nakabara told him an old story he knew about Kashi's family. It turned out that many years ago, Kashi's father-in-law and Nakabara's father, along with their juniors, were three of the best martial arts masters in the dojo. Later, because Nakabara's father joined the army, went to Burma, so there were only two people left, Kashi's father-in-law and his brother. Later, in a contest to contest the position of the head of the dojo, Kashi's father-in-law accidentally beat the younger brother to death. From then on, the members of the younger brother's family did not share the same fate with the people of the Kashi family. Many years have passed, but my younger brother named Zago still wants revenge. Zago's cruel character, ruthless tricks, has now become a notorious drug lord in Burma. The weapon he was best at using was a long rope shaped like barbed wire. Murder victims on the neck often leave very deep marks, plus an X-shaped wound. Nakabara speculates the recent serial murder cases are most likely caused by Zago to avenge his brother. After saying that, Nakabara advised Kashi to quickly leave Thailand, avoiding self-harm, but the feud that killed his wife could not be reported. At that moment, Kashi was determined to kill this Zago with his own hands. Nakabara still had to stay in Thailand to coordinate with the police to investigate the student's case, so the male lead decided to go alone to Burma to meet Zago. Before leaving, Nakabara told Kashi that his father once hid a precious black suit and a sword in the rainforests of Burma. If necessary, he could rely on this map to dig. Up to use. The next day, Kashy took a plane to Burma and then went to a bar disguised as a drug addict, wanted to buy drugs and inquired about Zago's whereabouts, but as soon as he finished speaking, he was tested by a group of people. Surrounded by suction, faced with a bunch of addicts like this, of course, Kashi didn't have to say much, just a few simple moves defeated them all. The male lead caught one of them, forced him to tell Zago's lair, but this guy didn't know where Zago was, only received orders that anyone who came here to inquire about Zago would kill him. No need to ask why. Kashi knew there was no point in asking anymore, so he aggressively left there and returned to the hotel to rest. In his dream, he seemed to hear a strange noise outside the door. Kashi didn't have time to put on his clothes and kicked a Burmese policeman standing behind a wooden door, then the police beat and retreated and made a spectacular escape. Looks like Zago bought a picture of the police here. That night, Kashi quietly infiltrated the police station. After knocking down the guards at the door, he went to the sheriff's office and directly reminded the chief to get up high and hit the floor hard. After a brutal torture session, the sheriff reveals Zago's whereabouts. Kashi kills him and leaves, then hires a small wooden boat to head towards Zago's lair, not knowing how long it takes. In the tropical rainforest. At dusk that night, Kashi suddenly encountered a group of bandits with guns. He took advantage of the fact that they were not on guard, then jumped out of the bushes and coldly broke one of the necks. The second guy was also controlled by him. Then Mr. Fidao killed the third guy. The fourth guy saw that and continuously opened fire at him, but he quickly dodged. In the end, he was still caught. At the moment of life and death, Kashi quickly stabbed the knife straight into his chest before he could open fire. Kashi then continued to move forward following the instructions of the final map. Finally discovered the equipment that Nakabara's father left behind in an arid forest. After everything was ready, Kashi took advantage of the dark to launch a full-fledged attack. Kashi jumped from above to below, directly slashed two bandits who were patrolling with his sword, then threw a mine, seriously injuring Zago's subordinates. The deafening explosion of mines also attracted the attention of Zago and his most powerful subordinate, Mayat. Not long after, Mayat took a short knife to cut him. His moves are flexible, very dangerous, and Kashi is temporarily beaten to lose all advantage. After a fierce struggle, the black cloth on the male lead's face was pulled down by Mayat. After fighting for a few rounds, Kashi gradually understood Mayat's moves, so he seized the opportunity to grab his hand. A snap sent the knife to the ground. This was followed by a 360-degree rotation kick that stunned Mayat. He tried to get up to continue fighting, but caused Kashi to pick up the knife and stab him in the leg and slash across his stomach. In the end, Kashi didn't have to do the lovemaking anymore, but stabbed his opponent through the chest. Next, Kashi headed towards Zago's room. His eyes were filled with hatred. Looking at Zago proudly sitting in front of him, Kashi said that, "You are the one who killed my wife." But Zago only coldly replied. Turns out Kamakoto was married off to a trash guy. After saying that, Kashi ran to beat him. Kashi's long sword opposes Zago's barbed wire. Kashi took advantage of the barbed wire's weak point of defense. He bent down and slashed Zago in the stomach, but Zago remained unharmed. He picked up the sword from the ground, confronting Kashi directly. The pivotal moment swung the barbed wire tightly around Kashi's neck. Fortunately, the male lead reacted quickly, using his sword to block this fatal move. Kashi pushed him forward with all his might. He was not badly injured, and he couldn't get up for a long time, and Kashi didn't hesitate anymore, drew his sword, and cut off Zago's head. After reporting, the male lead returned to Nakabara's dojo. He told Nakabara about his dangerous journey of revenge. As a result, during the conversation, a delivery boy caught Kashi's attention. He discovered that on his waist there was a mark of a short knife. On the blade was engraved the same pattern as the one on the knives of the two thugs he killed. This detail made Kashi fall into contemplation again. Were those two thugs sent by Nakabara? So isn't the mastermind behind this whole thing sitting in front of you? Under Kashi's steely interrogation, Nakabara also told the truth. It turns out that on the surface, he is the owner of a dojo, but in reality he is a drug dealer, and has always been a close partner with drug owner Zago. But recently, Zago has constantly increased the price of drugs, causing Nakabara's profits to decrease, seriously affecting his business. So in a bit of frigidity, Nakabara orchestrated this plan himself. First, he personally went to Japan, used homemade barbed wire to kill the male lead's wife, then tricked him into going to Thailand, then used the same trick to kill the next student to lure Kashi to find Zago the reporter. Just like that, he can be a profitable fisherman with no effort. After listening to the whole story, Kashi knew he was tricked by him again. It turned out that the killer who killed his wife was always next to him. Kashi couldn't swallow the anger. He picked up the teapot on the table and swatted it at Nakabara. The extreme anger brought Kashi's power to its peak. He used his foot to kick Nakabara flying to the other room. Nakabara faced the angry Kashi like a beast, and didn't dare to carelessly despise the enemy anymore. He turned around to throw a kick that made Kashi spin a few times in the air and then hit the ground. Then, he wielded his sword and slashed forward, while Kashi used his long staff to continue. Kashi's cane broke in half. His weapons changed to 2 short sticks. Then they switched to swords again, continuing to cut each other. Nakabara also conveniently threw a dagger at Kashi's shoulder. Kashi was in great pain, pulled out his knife, and looked up to see his homemade barbed wire hanging on a rack in front of him. So he tried to get to his feet, grabbing the wire, swinging the rope tightly around and around Nakabara's neck like the scene of him killing his wife that day.